Welcome to Only Football. I have a fan behind me because the wind is out of my sail tonight.
Oh no. Why did you have to start it like that? That is so
because
poetic.
I know
So poetic.
because we all know what it's like, but unfortunately for some of us, the end is not in sight. We will
Hmm.
cover the game that just happened tonight, and I gotta say, you had a heartbreaking loss too.
Yes.
Like I, I watched that game, and I didn't even know if it was too soon to text you.
If you guys love or if you guys are just like love watching me and Kyle just cry over football, then you had a great week that was sandwiched between two primetime L's. And let's start it off with Thursday night football, where the Commanders beat the Bears 12-7. I think it was a surprise to both of us. We both had picked the Bears, and I don't remember what our score predictions were, but they were nowhere fucking near what we predicted. I think we were predicting in the 20s, a score of in the 20s, I think.
Yeah, I thought that this could be a sneaky, high-scoring game. Carson
Mm-hmm.
Wentz, he's gone off against a couple teams, and I thought maybe Commanders get out to like 27, but then Justin Fields gets in this kind of like back and forth. And it just, I think sometimes, and this is what I thought when when the game was over. I really thought sometimes I overanalyze things and I
Mm-hmm.
create like a narrative that I want to happen. And sometimes
Join
the
the party.
and sometimes Commanders Bears is exactly what you thought it would be. And that was one of these cases. I
Yeah.
think the Bears, had a real shot of winning that game. 1 yard line, you know,
Several
it,
times.
several times, and they weren't able to capitalize on opportunities, and that is kind of the lyrics to the song that I'm playing for my team. So
Yeah.
those ones hurt more than just, oh, we just are not as good as Buffalo, so they beat the dog breaks off us, or
Yeah.
when you lose in the fashion where you had multiple opportunities to win, and you just are this emotional roller coaster the whole game, and you're like, we're gonna fucking win, we're gonna win this game, and then you don't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you're almost like, why did I let myself believe? Why did I let myself
And
believe?
I was gonna say, and that's exactly what I did on Thursday night. Um, I think it's just following the trend of Thursday night football. Again, the only good one was the Chargers and the Chiefs, and everything else has been kind of trash. And the Bears Commanders followed suit. To no offense, but your Broncos and Colts the week prior, they scored the same amount of points. I'm pretty sure. If
Yeah,
it was like what 12-9 on the last game, or
yeah,
9-6 or something like that. I just can't believe that the Bears went out, scored one touchdown on a dime by Justin Fields to Dante Pettis. Um, and that was the only score the Bears had. And it's just ridiculous to me that Khalil Herbert had a 60 plus yard run or a 50 plus yard, something like that, to get him at the 5 or within the 5. They couldn't come away with any points there. And then Justin Fields there towards the end had like a 40 plus yard run inside the 5, and they couldn't come away with any points there either. And I just talked about this on Big League Chicago with the rest of the guys. And I look at the offensive line and turnstile protection that they give the Bears. Literally the best two league average O linemen are Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum, and the rest are just absolute garbage. So I could start there. And don't get me wrong, their wide receiving core isn't anything up to par like it should be. So other than Darnell Mooney, that's pretty much it, right? So, but I want to get into the issues that, like, just being at the goal line, being within the 5, being in the red zone in general. The Bears just failed to do anything there, and they didn't come away with any field goals because they kept going for it on fourth down. And I almost like respect it. I respect it, but I at the same time, those field goals probably would have won us the game. We probably would have won 13-12 if we scored 2 there off those 2 runs from Fields and Herbert. But it's like I feel like Eberflus and the Bears were in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Damned if you score a field goal because we wanted those points and we're like, well, you're within the 5, so why didn't you go for it on 4th and 1?
Right.
And then damned if you don't, where I'm here like we could have won if we just hit field goals. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a really shitty situation as a Bears fan to be in because you're like, why didn't you fucking go for a touchdown? And now it's like, why didn't you go for the field goals? So I'm a big fan of the points of just getting the points, but I'm also a big fan of crying about it when they could have scored a touchdown, So,
Yeah.
and especially after Fields had that dime to Pettis, that was like a 40-yard touchdown pass, something like that. So again, a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's kind of impossible to come away with or to do anything to go in the right direction, I guess, in that sense. But the Bears ended up losing, and it was a damned if you don't, which they didn't, go for field goals, and that's kind of what happened because I feel like Cairo Santos, next to Justin Fields, are the best offensive players the Bears have, and that's sad to think about.
Yeah, I think you, as far as the coaching stuff, where you were talking about, there was times where he was damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think you have to identify what kind of game you're in. Like if it's against a Chiefs team, you're like, field goals aren't going to do. We're going to need touchdowns, and I understand that, but to identify that this is probably going to be a 9-12 game, that's your cue to kick the points. Take the points, because what are the Commanders going to do? Are they going to run the score up on us? Probably not. So I think you just situationally and here's what you can't do. You can't let your past weeks start defining what you're doing today. Every game is different. Every matchup is completely different. Last week, when they could have ran the clock out and Russ threw that interception in the end zone and then they scored in overtime, it almost felt like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to like give us something to be happy about? Like, we didn't win by running up the clock. We really punched him in the face and there's nothing sexy you could do in the last 2 minutes that's going to change the way we view this team. And it just felt like they were doing it because of all the games coming together. And maybe the Bears just wanted to say, no, we're going to score points. We're not going to settle for field goals. And that's cool and sexy. But if you're in a game that is going to be a grudge match, maybe just accept it and take the points. And especially on the goal line there, usually quarterbacks that are very mobile, like Fields, they tend to be good on the goal line because you have 3 options, really. You have the quarterback keeper, the run, or the bootleg pass, or just a shotgun pass. But what I mean is that is like an extra added weapon that comes extremely in handy on the 1-yard line versus just having a running quarterback. You look at Jalen Hurts and how much he's used at the goal line. And when Russell Wilson was mobile, he was also used in that way, where you have to respect the quarterback. So you can't just stuff the box and go all run. You got to be, is he holding the ball like Lamar Jackson? And I think it's kind of interesting that Justin Fields being as athletic as he is, that they're not finding creative ways to put points up. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's a great point to look at this game. Are the Commanders gonna run up the score? Fuck no, especially with the paired with the fact that the defensive line, it was actually getting to Wentz quite a bit, and they was putting him under a lot of pressure. Again, Wentz has Terry McLaurin, Robinson, who's a rookie running back. He's also got Antonio Gibson, right? He doesn't have many weapons, and Wentz, we already know what Wentz is. So yes, absolutely take the field goal in that point. And I didn't even think about that. So I love that you brought that up. Like, who are you going against? Who is your opponent right now? And can they do anything in terms of, hey, if we really just take the field goals, if we can get all the way to the red zone and take field goals, does it look like shit? Sure. But do we win the game? Absolutely. I think that was a great point that I think we missed on Big League Chicago when we were recording. So thanks for that, because it does make it seem a little bit more like, wow, that really could have been a winnable game if Eberflus was able to look across the sidelines and be like, oh yeah, Ron Rivera, who just called out his QB, who is Carson Wentz, who doesn't have any weapons, who has only scored 1 touchdown and a couple field goals. Yeah, you're right. That is our opponent. So we do have to go for field goals, but the defense did its job, I think, in the beginning, and then just kind of let up. I feel like in the second half, this is just the defense flip flops a lot. They'll either go really hard in the first and then go easy in the second, or go really soft in the or really hard in the or whatever I just said. The flip flop of whatever I just said.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that was a solid assessment. But I will say, if you caught one of my rants on the Star Six Media Instagram page, I do think Justin Fields is the guy, just because like he kept getting up at sack after sack after sack. He got sacked 5 times and he kept getting up, and he looked like every time he got hit, that's it. That's all we're going to see from Justin Fields this season. And if they don't improve the line, or if they don't get something right there, we may be seeing the last of Justin Fields this season in the next couple weeks, because those hits he took were not pretty. They were not pretty at all.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it just, God, it makes you want to pound the table. And it's so frustrating when there's nothing more frustrating than a clear weakness on your team, because it's not like when I've been a part of bad teams where every week it's something new. Oh, it was penalties. Today they weren't disciplined. Now the defense didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Oh, today the offense. It's like, but when it's with the same damn story every week, you start to like, why can't we get this fixed? Like, what is the issue? Is it personnel? Let's get better people. Like, and I just, man, I really feel for that Justin Fields guy, because he goes into this every single week knowing what the story is, and that he's going to have to do something miraculous just to give his team, not even to give his team a chance to win, to give his team a chance to convert a third down. So, I mean, it's just, it seems like it's always like this kind of panic. Like, you can't snap the ball and have the luxury of standing in the pocket and going through your progressions and going, okay, that's good, that's not good. I'm not saying he needs, 7 seconds, but it takes about 4 to 6 seconds probably to get a good look at the defense and go through 3 to 4 progressions. But if you're snapping the ball and the first thing you are thinking is, I got to get out of here because I don't have room, then, I mean, by the time you're actually looking downfield, if that happened to be an option that you got out safely, the routes are probably over, and you're just having wide receivers extending the play.
Exactly.
And it's just, you like, once in a while, that's fine. But if you're always feeling like the offense is just not poised and it's always in a panic kind of feel, it's just, it's like gives you anxiety just watching it.
It does. It does. And but at the same time, I got to give a lot of credit to that Washington front defensive line, because Montez Sweat and Allen were putting so much pressure on Fields, and they were absolutely just getting through whatever offensive line we threw out there. Montez Sweat had so many pressures, and I think he had a couple sacks in that game as well. But, credit to them, because they were, like you said, making Justin Fields' first instincts were, I'm about to get hit. Let me get the fuck out of this pocket. Yeah. So credit to their defense. Carson Wentz and the offense really didn't do much, but at the end of the day and at the end of this game, they did enough to win this game, and they did the things that the Bears couldn't. And that was, get down the field and get those field goals, even if they weren't in the red zone, right? 30, 40-yard field goals. And, when they scored. I think it was Robinson who actually scored his first NFL touchdown. I think they signed it and everything. So congrats to him. But yeah, man, the Commanders, their defense, their defensive line is very good. And once they get Chase Young back, it's going to be scary. So credit to them. But, the better team won today. So,
well, I've always known that the Commanders had a pretty tough defense, but it's just with their offense playing at the level they are, you expect to win some of those close games. Did you keep up with the Saints game?
I kind of kept up a little bit with the Saints game, not too much though.
That was a pretty interesting game.
Was it similar?
I wouldn't say similar, because there was just more touchdowns, more explosive plays. I think Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And they were, he had the game that he hadn't had all season. He was like the vintage Jamar Chase, but Saints were in a really good position to win. They almost ran their way to a victory. And the Bengals, I mean, the Saints led that game, I think, until the very end. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
Saints
do
were,
remember seeing that. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought that the Saints are, I don't want to say like becoming better. I just think Alvin Kamara is healthy. I really think it's that simple. He's just one of those guys that when he's not in the game, he's the leader of that offense. And,
Yeah.
Michael Thomas, 3 years ago was the leader as far as weapons wise. And then
He's just
obviously you had,
absent this
yeah,
year. He's
it's
just
almost,
nowhere to be
it's like,
found.
it feels like he peaked in high school. It really does. It's just, it's like you're sitting around
He
like
keeps going
waiting.
back to his old high school.
Well, he was. I mean, I remember watching games where he was clearly the best wide receiver in football,
Yeah.
and that is just not the case anymore. And he's not even somebody you have to game plan around. So, Joe Burrow obviously coming back to Louisiana for a homecoming. There was a lot of family. He wanted to get that win, but I'm not impressed with Cincinnati yet. I know that they scored
Mhm.
30 points, but I'm not sure if the Saints are a well enough team for you to barely squeak one out. I mean, yes, you
Yeah.
could be a playoff team, but what I mean is this team represented the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
This team is not supposed to be battling with good teams. And I know it's the NFL and you can make an argument that at any given Sunday, and sure, but there's a trend of what we've been seeing from Cincinnati. I'm not just picking on them because of the Sunday game. I'm
Yeah.
picking on them because it just seems like they haven't been as explosive as they were last year. And who knows? I mean, time will tell. Maybe the Saints are they figure out a recipe, but I mean, look, you're playing a game with Andy Dalton. I mean, I know I said Andy Dalton was better than Jameis Winston because I thought he looked better, but that doesn't mean that these are great quarterbacks.
Exactly. I was gonna say, like, at the end of the day, Andy Dalton is what the backup quarterback, and that's how he played. We've talked about it before. Game managers, backup quarterbacks are game managers, and this is kind of what he did. He scored 26 with the Saints, but credit the Bengals. Although I don't want to give them too much credit like you did because we've seen them up against really good teams or good teams at least these past few weeks, and they just haven't been able to shut them out or I'm sorry, end the game. With a win. So against New Orleans, who I think scored close to 40 plus the week prior, and it was the Jason or Taysom. What was it? Funny?
Tatum,
Tatum, yeah, yeah, whatever his name is, Taysom game. We'll say that.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. There we go.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't know. You don't come to Only Football for correct pronunciation anyway. Taysom Hill, that was a Taysom Hill game. I don't think he was very, very active in this game because you had Andy Dalton in there trying to, and like you said, they had the lead most of the game, if not up until the very, very end, until Cincinnati actually came in to win this. So, but yeah, like you said, the Cincinnati win doesn't necessarily impress me because it is against New Orleans, and sure they do score a lot of points, but again, this season is so weird where these teams beat this team who beat this team, but that team beat this team. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that. So
you can't connect the dots at all.
No, because there are no dots. There's like you try to connect the dots and it's like, oh, that's a square. Oh, that's a triangle. Oh, they're not dots. You know what I mean? Like they're all different.
You think you know a team, and then we're only like imagine 2 weeks ago what we thought of the Jaguars and what we think of the Jaguars now. Now that's only 2 weeks removed from blowing out the Chargers. So, I mean, it's not like we're like learning more about teams. I mean, we are, but two things are true. We're learning more about teams, but we're also learning completely different narratives every 2 weeks. So it's just yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say exactly. And another game that really proved that is San Francisco at Atlanta. We talked about Atlanta being an exciting team, but we're like, I don't know if they're gonna be a good team. They're gonna be exciting. They'll be in games, they'll score a lot of points. But they were at home and they beat the 49ers by 2 touchdowns. And sure, you can look at San Francisco and say, well, Jimmy G's the quarterback. Is he a backup? Sure, technically this week, but he's been a starter for how many years now, right?
Yeah.
But Mariota doing it with his legs as well in that Atlanta win, and no Cordero Patterson either. They're finding ways to win. Can you imagine when Patterson either comes back? I forget how long he's out, but when he comes back to this Atlanta team, and they are, I don't want to say rolling, but they're doing the things they can. Like they're gonna
wins.
Exactly, they're stacking wins. This is going to be similar to like the Browns and Deshaun Watson when Cordero Patterson comes back. If they're in a winning situation, Cordero Patterson literally just adds to more points to the excitement of this Atlanta team. And I don't know, do you think this says more about Atlanta being a friskier, exciting team, or is this kind of like maybe San Francisco with Jimmy G starting his, I believe, third game or fourth game of the season? Is it just kind of like, maybe a little rusty, maybe a little bit, just, I don't know. What do you think for this one?
Well, I thought if he was rusty, he would have been rusty in his first game against the Broncos. And he didn't look awful. It was just there wasn't a lot going on offensively, but Denver has a really good defense. So it was kind of like, okay, we'll give him a pass. And then he scored a lot of points, the following week. I forgot who they played. I think they played maybe Seattle.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even close. And Seattle, they might be a good team. Who knows? So I thought that the 49ers, just based on sheer talent, would be able to win this game. But here is what I think. I think this game says entirely more about Atlanta than it does the 49ers. Arthur Smith has said from the very beginning that the identity of this team is to have, a powerful run attack and play defense. And he's been able to do that. And he's very creative with the way he runs the ball. And it's been working out for the most part. You see how much points they're putting up. So much so that I had to add their kicker on my fantasy team. I was like, yeah, dude, these guys are kicking a bunch of extra points. And they were struggling in the red zone for a little bit. So a lot of field goals. But anyway, Arthur Smith made it clear what the identity was. But now they're going against the 49ers. Now the 49ers have the best run defense in the NFL. So this is kind of like where, the men are separated from the boys here. Like, I understand what you want to do, but this is your real challenge. If you can accomplish it against the number one run defense in the NFL, people have to start taking you serious. They don't have a choice because all you can do is beat the teams that you can beat. And it's not so much about me saying, oh, Jimmy G just had a bad game. They scored 28 points against the best defense in the NFL. That's all I need to see. You could go ahead and just black out the 14 points San Francisco scored, and I would already be like, this says way more about Arthur Smith and this Atlanta Falcons team. They're for real. They're going to run the football. Apparently, you can be the best rush defense in the NFL, and they're still going to put up points. And this is another one of those things where they're not going to get respect because of their brand and because of their players. And this is how I felt last year about Jalen Hurts. And it was like, I was telling people that I thought they would be good. And it's almost like you forget they were even in the playoffs. You're like, Philly was in the playoffs because Jalen Hurts wasn't anything to write home about, quote, or so to say from people. But then this year, now everybody's wants to interview him on Sunday Night Football and sit down with him for 10 minutes. And now it's like, oh,
hot topic.
Yeah. It's like the Eagles are for real. Well, I'm not saying that this is like where Atlanta is right now, but I am saying that they're obviously trending in a very good direction. And because they're the Atlanta Falcons, don't expect them to get credit for it. Expect people to say that San Francisco had a bad game. That's what they're going to say. And I just want to say on this podcast, I think they're wrong. And Atlanta, they may not, they may only go 500 for the rest of their games. But the expectations in the beginning of the season for Atlanta was the number one overall draft pick, maybe a second, but we knew they were in the top 5. And Atlanta's like, hold my beer. I'm playing for a division title right now. And it's exciting to watch because everybody loves a good underdog story,
And that's how I feel about Atlanta too, because these teams really, when you kind of look at them, you're like, wow, this is kind of a night and day talent wise. But somehow, right, Atlanta, the way they've been playing, it's just like, wow, they actually beat a San Francisco team that is just very, very much more talented than they are. So I like the underdog too. Another underdog, I think, this week was New England going to Cleveland, and New England comes out with the dub 38-15. And you have to look at Bailey Zappi, 24 for 34 with 309 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not only that, but Ramondre Stevenson, 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, where is this? This is another team with the Patriots where without Mac Jones, we were kind of like, well, they might win a game or so with Bailey Zappi. They have won every game with Bailey Zappi. And now it's kind of like what do you think of this team against Cleveland, who, defensively is actually pretty good? I mean, they put up some points as well, but I mean, Jacoby Brissett with 2 interceptions, like that defense in New England is starting to get a lot better.
Yeah, this is a game I talked you into, if you recall.
You did, yeah.
You were like Cleveland, and I said, look, they gave up 440 rushing yards in the last 2 weeks, and Ramondre Stevenson is a 3-down back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you heard that on the podcast and picked him up, he scored 25 points this week. This was
Savage.
This is a awful run defense, and if you don't have a strong run defense, like, it's hard to pass the ball in this league because a lot of things have to go right. But running the ball is kind of just the fundamentals of football. Quarterback snaps it, hands it off, and if you can get 5 yards every time you do that, you're probably going to win the game because you don't have to throw. You don't have to worry about pressure and throwing a bad pass and a tipped ball from the linebacker. If we're talking like, the statistics of Amazon or whatever, there's a very smaller percent probably of the things that could go wrong in a pass play. If you think about it, there's a lot that could go wrong. But
absolutely.
If you could just simplify the game to running the football and winning games doing that, this is a huge problem for Cleveland. I think that Jacoby Brissett, I know you said earlier that when Cordell Patterson comes back, it could be like when Deshaun Watson comes back, but I'm not sure that Cleveland is going to be in the situation that we predicted that they would be in when Jacoby Brissett was, I think, 2-1 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think that Cleveland has a serious issue if they can't get their run defense together. It's not just it's not a minor issue. The way that they've been playing, it is a severe issue that if it's not addressed, they're going to get ran all over, literally, and on the scoreboard. And I think as far as the quarterback situation there, it's hard. It's hard to, it reminds me of kind of Cooper Rush. If you win games, honestly, as a backup, your job is to go in and win football games and not make any mistakes. And you're supposed to heavily rely on your defense and your running game. They're not asking you to go out there if you're a backup and be Aaron Rodgers, because if you were, you wouldn't be a backup. So that's like my philosophy on it, is that they played good defense. They ran the football. Quarterback did what quarterback needs to do. Is he better than Mac Jones? I don't think so, because I think if Mac Jones was on this 2-game winning streak, it would look very similar if you catch my drift.
We'd be talking about how Mac Jones is leading this Patriots team to the playoffs again. That's exactly what it would be, and obviously he went down with that injury, but I think this is like Bill Belichick just doing what Bill Belichick does with some quarterbacks. And like the whole Cam Newton thing was maybe, I don't know, an experiment gone too far. I don't know what it was, but he's making, and like you said, Ramondre Stevenson and couple that with the fact that Cleveland has given up so many yards on the ground, that's exactly what this game is. But yeah, I think Bailey Zappi has played himself into a new job next year, or maybe a higher paying job, maybe a starting job. There's gonna be some teams with question marks at quarterback, like there always is, right? So it's gonna be
probably. I would say probably not, though, just because of how deep the quarterback draft is this year. That I think most quarterback, because there's only maybe like 5 quarterback problems in the NFL, and I
Mhm.
probably all those teams will pick one in the first round. That's just my take on it. They
I
might, he
yeah.
might, but
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I could see, yeah, for sure, a lot of teams
'cause-
doing that too.
yeah, it's totally a timing thing. Like, because there was no quarterback draft this year, so you see Carson Wentz, and all these guys just moving around, and
And even
Geno Smith getting a shot.
and even the guys that were drafted, like you see them like sitting behind the actual starters because they're like, this isn't next year's draft as far as
Yeah,
quarterback talent. So that's kind of what you see there. Next game up, my wife made sure to let me know who won this game. Jets,
Jets.
Jets go into Lambeau and have a convincing win against the Packers, 27-10. And the first thing I want to talk about is how you called it that Green Bay was going to have a rough year. And so far they're not. They're nowhere near the lead of the NFC North. It's the Vikings at 5-1. But Aaron Rodgers is having too many issues, just too many issues with his wide receivers. And I feel like this team as a whole is having too many issues. But the Jets, came in and they did really well. Zach Wilson, whatever. He had an okay game. I mean, it was really mostly the rushing with Brees Hall. Braxton Berrios had a solid carry for a touchdown, and the defense as well. The defense for the Jets, this is one of those teams where you have a defensive minded coach and that defense is playing ridiculously good. And you couple that with a young quarterback and some young weapons, and they start looking really scary and really young. Like they're going to take over the AFC East like,
you,
like tomorrow.
you sound like a creeper. Like you had it with young guys.
Just a
So,
bunch of young. I feel like Dom. It's like, relax. I just want to take some pictures.
dude, just chill, just chill. Oh my god, that's awful. I don't know which game you're probably more impressed by. So I'm like one of those guys that if I make a right prediction, I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it. So I'm sorry that I'm not humble about it, but
Same.
I don't know if it was the Jets game, the Patriots game, or the Steelers game. But I nailed all three of my underdogs this week,
You
and I
did.
feel really good about that. Now this Jets game, how did I know? Because numbers usually don't lie. There's only been 6 teams to not have a bye week after playing in London, and all 6 of those teams were tied or losing in the fourth quarter. So I picked the Jets based off of being jet lagged and not practicing, or even if they were practicing, being tired. And then you got to add in the fact that everybody probably thought Aaron Rodgers, even on one day of rest, could probably will himself into a victory. So now you have the what do you call it? Not a cage game. What do you call it when you're like underprepared or underestimate your opponent? A trap game.
Trap game. Yeah.
So it also had the perfect criteria, in my opinion, for a trap game. And the Jets are trending in the last 2 weeks, now 3, but 2 weeks going into this game in a very good direction. They are playing really good. Stingley or not Stingley. Who's their cornerback that's playing? He just got drafted. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
Sauce Gardner for the Jets.
Yeah, Gardner's
Yeah.
playing extremely well.
He is.
So
he really
basically, all the Jets are doing is their man coverage on the outside, and they're bringing a bunch of different blitz packages. And that is a luxury that I've been watching all season with my team. It makes it very difficult when you can just single coverage people on the outside and bring in 6 people and you have 2 seconds to make a decision. And if you happen to throw it up, it might come down in Stingley's hand. So I think that Gardner, thank you. I said that and I was like, God, man, this is not the podcast for facts and information.
Do you want that doesn't make only football?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Jets are doing a lot of things that I still need to. They had a little bit of a drought, kind of offensively for a little bit, but then they had big plays, and I'm impressed with the Jets, and I think maybe the green in the symbols symbolizes the gardener in sauce.
Have you? I hate you. They're also saying that these receivers are getting lost in the sauce, and I love that. I absolutely love it. When you think of these cornerbacks, right? Like you think of like Revis Island, and you
Oh
think
yeah.
of Ramsey, right? Like now you got this first year starting cornerback who is absolutely making these guys look rough. And sure, you can point to the fact that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have Alan Lazard and Tanyan, and that's about it. And maybe some Randall Cobb. I mean, Randall Cobb's like 67 years old, so it
But
is what
no,
it is.
I'm not.
Uh,
I'm not giving that to them because great
and
quarterbacks make the receivers good.
exactly, and I
We
think
never talked about
uh,
excuses with Manning and Brady.
exactly, and I think great cornerbacks make those receivers look absolutely silly, and that's exactly what Sauce Gardner did. So I, you could point at that. The Green Bay Packers fans, I feel like maybe are kind of tooting that horn, like, oh well, we don't have anybody. Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams would make the Jets look like shit, and yeah, sure that might be true, but that's not the team you guys have out there right now. I do want to say, as a Bears fan, though, I love seeing the Green Bay Packers fans just absolutely tear this team to shreds. Like, I love watching them lose 27-10 to the Jets. And even if my wife gives me shit about it, I love seeing that. I'll take that win all fucking day.
You just have to keep telling her you're not a Jets fan.
You're a Bears fan. Yes, they're garbage compared to them right now, but you're a Bears fan.
Yeah, just indoctrinate her. Like, get a recording of you doing it for 7 hours straight, and while she's sleeping, just like set it next to her ear.
At like the lowest setting, so she
Yeah.
can't even like really hear it, but she's taking that information
Did
in.
you dream about the Bears last night?
I did. I think I'm becoming a real big Bears fan. Welcome to the fucking terrible family.
Well, I just want to say, you said
Yep.
you're never going to bet on the Colts again. You said that, and I just want you to try to explain what happened.
Dude, I don't know what happened. The Colts put up 12 points in prime time, and then they put up 34 against a Jacksonville Jaguars team, which we thought we had figured out. But I'm like, what is this? Like, what is going on in the Colts? And I really don't know, other than Matt Ryan had a ridiculously stupid game. I don't know if it's because the Jaguars secondary is like such trash, or if it's because their rush game, their defensive rushers are complete ass. This guy was able to sit in the pocket for 58 pass attempts. And sure, out of those 58, he completed 42, but for 389
Wow.
yards and 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, this man was able to sit there. And look, I won't bet on the Colts, but I was able to get a trade for Michael Pittman Jr. And he got me 13 receptions for 134 yards. No touchdowns, but that's still like almost 30 points. So I will say thanks, Matt Ryan, for that. Thanks, Michael Pittman. Love that. But I don't know. The Jaguars were still able to put up 27 points, and you could kind of look to Trevor Lawrence, but I think this is more of the run game with Etienne, Hasty, and Robinson. So it was more of their run game than it was for Trevor Lawrence. But dude, when your defensive front line has to be so bad to let Matt Ryan sit back there for 58 pass attempts and still get almost 400 yards on you. Again, I don't know if it's because they were just not putting pressure on Ryan, which seems to be one of the easier things to do this season, or if it was just their secondary, which really, really could not guard anybody.
I think
Either
it's
way,
their run. Jonathan Taylor, was he in the game?
Jonathan Taylor, no, I don't think he was in the game at all. I don't think he's
Yeah,
been in the game for a while.
I think they just have kind of like a running back problem right now because I think Hines got hurt against the Broncos, and I didn't
Yeah,
follow their injury report to see if they were going to go with Philip Lindsay, but
they
you
went with
know,
Deion Jackson, I think a rookie.
yeah. So I mean, I think that tells a lot more of the story too. But you got to be honest with yourself, and I'm not being a homer here. The Broncos defense isn't a good way to gauge an offense. I mean, you've been seeing it all
Mhm.
year that they haven't given up. I think they average like between 13 to 17 points. It's not a lot of points. People don't run the score up on us.
Yeah.
Even the one game where the defense gave up more than 20, it was because of a Melvin Gordon fumble return. So I
True.
think the Colts could be a better offense than we suspected. And sometimes, like, new quarterback going into new environment. I only know all this. I'm not like a big Colts fan. I only know all this because I was watching the Thursday night football stuff a week
Yeah.
ago, and they are going through a lot of growing pains as well. And if they can, figure it out, not everybody just doesn't ever figure it out. That's only the
Mhm.
Broncos and Bears. Like,
Mhm.
there are teams out there.
That's so true.
There are teams out there that when they say we're figuring it out and we're having growing pains, they're telling the truth, and they're not just playing bad football. That might be what the Colts are doing. I think that their big emotional game of the year is beating the Chiefs. And when you
Yeah,
beat a team
by
like the
3.
Chiefs, yeah, and when you beat a team like the Chiefs, you have the mindset that you can go against any team in the NFL. And
Mhm.
I don't know what that feels like. We haven't beat the Chiefs in 6 years. But if you were to beat the Chiefs, you'd probably feel like that.
If you were to
So
know what it's like.
so yeah, this Colts team, giant question mark. Giant question mark. And the Jacksonville team, I said it earlier, 2 games removed from blowing out the Chargers, and now it kind of feels like they're slipping back into there's the Jaguars. I know you didn't change. Yeah,
Exactly, and I was gonna say, and another fun, I guess, fun fact, fun if you're the Colts in this I don't know. The Jaguars shut these Colts out in week 2, 24-0. And then they come back to Indianapolis and they get beaten by a touchdown.
yeah.
It's a close game, but again, it's just like,
What is this?
what is going on? This has got to be like, I think the NFL is just playing one big a reality TV show on its fans. I don't know what's going on, but that's what it is with the Jaguars and Colts. Let's move on to the Vikings. Kirk Cousins goes into Miami. I guess he likes the warm weather. He's getting used to playing in the dome, so he's liking that controlled temp. But they beat the Kirk Cousins and the Vikings beat Miami 24-16. Um,
Yeah,
the Vikings
are
are
5 and
legit.
1.
The Vikings are legit. I wish. And again, this is another thing I got to give you credit for, because you called this, during our preseason kind of like predictions or something like that. You called the Vikings being a really good team, and sure, we could kind of look at like the games past, right? They almost lost to the Bears, but they didn't. Those are those division matchups that sometimes are a little tough because they know each other so well. But they, and again, and this is another perfect game to be like, oh well, if the Miami Dolphins had Tua, it would probably be a different game. I don't think so. I maybe if Tua had gone on a run, a 2-3 game winning streak here and there, but Teddy Bridgewater still passed for 329 yards. Sure, he had 2 interceptions, but he also had 2 touchdowns with that. So, and they were only able to get those 16 points. So Kirk Cousins, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Justin Jefferson, 6 receptions, 100. There's no way you can stop these guys. These 2 together, and then you put Dalvin Cook in there just for fucking fun. And it's just like, fuck. The Vikings have been building something for the past 3-4 years, and it's coming to fruition now. So I think this is a very convincing win. Vikings are taking the North easy.
Wow. Well, appreciate the shout out. Now, this is when I thought the Vikings would go on this stretch because they have a lot of favorable matchups, and they're doing what they need to do. Now, this Vikings team, as much as I said that they'll win the North, which at the time was a really bold prediction, I do want to say that I don't think that they're going to the Super Bowl. And I only have to say that because they're 5-1, and that means something. Just like somehow, the Giants are 5-1. We'll get there. But what is going on, man? Yeah, I can't even look at that. It's just like, I'm happy for him, but man, what the hell?
What the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's okay. So the Vikings, I don't think that they're a good enough team to like blow anybody out, but I do think that they're good enough, no matter who they're playing, to stay in a ball game, like score wise, and just keep it close during the whole game. And I think Kirk Cousins has the most go-ahead touchdown drives in the the winning drive, whenever it happens, 5 minutes. And that's kind of, the case last year, but he had a head coach who totally killed his confidence on the field. And a lot
Mhm.
of those game-winning drives, they didn't really work out. Now he's got a coach that has full confidence in him. And you see that they're in the same situations, but now they're on the other side of these
Yep.
victories. And that's what I expected to happen with the new coach and favorable matchups. So this doesn't shock me at all. Not going to say that the Vikings are some Super Bowl contender, but who knows? They could, if they could heat up at the right time. Hey, they're doing right now. They're taking care of business. Everybody
Mhm.
that they're playing, they can beat. You can only beat who's on the schedule. I had the Vikings at number 5 last year, and this is kind of the reason why. So, and the Dolphins, I got to say, Tua is coming back next week after 2 weeks in the concussion protocol. So
Okay.
this is a turning point for the Dolphins. Now they're 3-3, and they have everything out in front of them because they started undefeated.
Mhm.
So this game actually, proves to be an important game. It's Tua's first game back. Do they skip a beat, or do they just go right back to the way that they were playing when before Tua got hurt? And maybe the Dolphins 3 weeks from now go on a 3-game winning streak, and we're like, okay, the Dolphins are really good, but they need Tua, because the thing about Miami is when you have a guy like Tua, and we talked about this in the offseason, they design their whole offense for Tua. So you can't
Yep.
plug and play him. If he goes out, your whole offense changes. And unless you're, like the Ravens, who have Kyler Humphrey or whatever, Kyle
Yeah.
Humphrey, a same guy. You're like, is that Lamar? Unless you have one of those, you can't just plug and play. So the Dolphins may be a good team. They may be maybe a great team. Who knows? But
Mhm.
I do know that they are not a good team without Tua.
And I would agree. The fact that he's coming back is going to be just a real, like, I feel like a real kick in the ass for this team, because, oh, hey, look, when they started, it's like, oh shit, the Dolphins are good. Wow, they're competing with the Bills. And now it's like, oh wait, not only are the Bills still really good, but now you have the Jets and the Patriots on a roll here. Now you got them like, oh shit, Zach Wilson's back. You have Bailey Zappi, and we're waiting on Mac Jones to come back, and they're still winning games. Now it's like, oh my god, wait, this entire time was the AFC East and the NFC East the best divisions in each respective conference? It's like, what
Yeah.
just happened, right? It just fucking flip flopped. So
The AFC East, I would have bought for a buck, but the NFC East, what? That
like,
is
what the fuck,
truly,
right?
yeah, that is truly shocking that it's the best
Um,
division in football potentially.
and talking about the NFC East, let's get into a game where again it just flip flops. Right, we had the Ravens visiting New York Giants, and the Giants took it away, took the dub kind of late in the game, 24-20. Um, Kayvon Thibodeau, their first round pick, their edge guy, he is the truth. He is a savage. He, even against the Lamar Jackson, he is a
Yeah.
savage. He was disrupting plays, getting to Jackson, making him make poor decisions. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson ended up with 2 interceptions in this game. I'll double check, but Kayvon Thibodeau, again, just such a savage for what he's been doing. That defense for the G-men is looking really good. He had 1 interception. But again, this team is 5-1. Uh, and I just mentioned Lamar Jackson, MVP season. He looked rough this game. What I will say though is his connection with Mark Andrews. That's going to be the only thing that really saves him this year and keeps him in the MVP talks. For a second MVP, hopefully. We'll see. But the offense looked in disarray. Really, like I said, Mark Andrews was the only one he could really count on. And then you had the rusher for the Ravens, Kenyon Drake, just ball out for some reason. Kenyon Drake, a name that you don't really hear anymore. And J.K. Dobbins is supposed to be the premier back for the Ravens, and Kenyon Drake went 119 yards and a score. So that was kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
But Mark Andrews, the only passing touchdown from Lamar Jackson, but the G-men, man, their defense is good. Saquon is back to being Saquon, and I don't know. What else can you say about these two teams?
Uh, I think that the Giants are playing really good defense and they're running the football. And we talk about
Exactly.
it all the time ad nausea that will win you a lot of football games because you can keep Lamar Jackson off the field and when you're running the football. And then when they do come on the field, the defense is well rested and they're already a good defense. If you look at some trends, right? If you have a good defense and you have a bad offense, what happens is the defense keeps you in the ball game the whole time, and then at the very end of it, you start seeing some missed tackles because they're winded because they played the whole game usually. But if you can run the
Yeah.
football and give the defense a good rest and then they come out, usually you'll win a lot of games. I didn't think the Giants could beat the Ravens. I didn't. I
Nope.
thought that the Ravens were just a better football team and they were going to kind of put a wet blanket on the G-men. But they could have, if you either love or you hate the score because Saquon Barkley bounced off a tackle and he was about to walk into the end zone and he went down on the 1 yard line. So if you were betting on the over or
Oh
something
yeah.
like that, I always think
Yeah.
of people. I always think of people when I see that. I'm like, I bet there's a guy out there that just lost $1 million because he
There
slid.
there was a play like that like years ago. I'm talking years ago with Philadelphia, whoever their running back was, where he busted like a 40-yard run. And Philadelphia had the game in hand. They probably were winning by like a score, if not like 3 points. And he just like slid to just run out the clock because the timeouts from the other team were gone. All they had to do was kneel it. I forget who that running back was, but everybody was like, just fucking score for my fantasy team. And so,
Yeah,
like you said, if
I
you were
saw that.
hoping if you were hoping to bank on the over or banking on Saquon to get you some more points in fantasy, he failed you.
Yeah, or if you were betting on the under, you were like, yes,
Yeah,
you
let's
know.
go. Let's go.
But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau seems like a real threat on that defense. Kayvon Thibodeau
He
had
is. Yeah.
Lamar Jackson tipping on his toes. He didn't know, what he didn't seem like. He seemed lethargic. Their whole offense did. And
Yep.
your point about Mark Andrews is this is not some surprising thing. This has been what the Ravens fans have been screaming is that why don't we bring in some real weapons? Like let's do what the Rams do and let's bring in some receivers. Why is it just Mark Andrews? And then
Mm-hmm.
when the game doesn't work out, everybody looks at Lamar and they're like, he's just a running quarterback. No, I've seen Lamar light it up, and
Yeah.
they just need to bring in a couple more weapons on offense. And it's been that way for a while, but I'm pretty sure that Harbaugh, I feel like I'm saying Marlboro cigarettes. I can never say it.
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh.
Yep.
I think he's just confident that he can win a football game with Lamar Jackson without the weapons and a solid defense. And he may be right. We've seen that happen before. And Lamar Jackson, they kind of have the same offense feeling as the Green Bay Packers now that they
Yeah.
have without Devontae Adams. And I think Lamar Jackson, if I had to start a football game and could only have one, I would take Lamar Jackson for the sheer fact that he alone is a weapon. You
Yep.
gotta add that into the equation. But the Ravens could have been undefeated going into this game. Their losses coming to Miami and Buffalo, they had chances to win those games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that the Giants. I think the Giants. They're up there right now. They're up there. I'm
They
moving the Giants into my top 5.
Oh wow. Wait, well let's hold on the top five for Wednesday's episode, but I can already expect the
It's a
Giants to be on
sneak
there. So
peek. It's a sneak peek.
it's a sneak peek to Giants in Kits' top five. You talked about the receivers for the Ravens, and it's crazy how much of an impact Hollywood Brown, even though he kind of is not a number one, kind of has on this, right? Because like you talk about Mark Andrews, like this has been the connection for the last 3-4 years with Lamar, and somehow they're not adding more weapons, just like they don't add weapons to Aaron Rodgers. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's
they're
kind of what it
sending
is.
weapons. They had
Yeah, exactly. They're
if they
sending
had
weapons away each
who
team.
they had Brown, right? They had
Yeah,
Brown.
Marquise Brown,
They
Hollywood
had
Brown. Yeah,
Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, and they sent him to take a draft pick to draft what? Kyle Hamilton, a safety. So they're
yep.
trying to play defense and just
Maybe
get by with Lamar, it seems like.
And that's exactly what it seems like. Just take a page out of the Green Bay book, I guess. Let's move into another surprising game, which you called the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against the Bucks. Pittsburgh takes the win 20-18, and we got a preview. Well, I don't want to say preview, but an in-game sub of my old friend Mitchell Trubisky. Went 9 for 12 with 144 yards and a sick touchdown to Chase Claypool. The Bucks and Brady looking just not good. Brady looked old, man. Brady looked old in this game. And even though he did have almost 250 yards, he had a score. The only fire really I saw from him was when he was screaming at his linemen about them not playing to their I guess level, or to their most.
Exactly.
And yeah, he's like, you guys can play better than this. You guys can play way better than this shit. And he had a point, and they were, unfortunately they lost to a 2-4 Pittsburgh team, 20-18. But you gotta give it to the Steelers. They were at home, and even Kenny Pickett went out. Mitch Trubisky came in, through the questionable pass to Chase Claypool in the end zone. Najee Harris caught a touchdown from Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's first passing touchdown of his career.
Was it Najee Harris's first touchdown too?
First touchdown. Oh, I know. And so this is kind of like, I don't want to make this similar to the Bears Commanders, because one team was clearly better than the other one, but they just lost. But I mean, again, this is just kind of how it goes. The Bucks lost to the Steelers at home at Pittsburgh, and that's kind of what it was.
Yeah. So this is really, really fun. I'm excited to talk about this because there's this one part that is exciting to think about. And if you're a diehard fan of the NFL, you know exactly what I'm talking about. How sometimes you will see a team, the helmet versus the helmet. You'll just see the schedule, and you have this like deep feeling that like it's almost like it only happens once in a while. You're like, I know that this team's gonna win, and once in a while, it's a team that is a total underdog. Now I felt that way, and then 3 days later, I heard a stat that was insane, and it was like Mike Tomlin I'm paraphrasing, but I'm going to give you the concept. He's like 50-0 for weeks after being blown out.
Oh my God.
That's not like, a 10 game sample size. This is like a decade's worth of,
material.
Data. Yeah. So when I saw that, because I think this was Saturday night, I was watching ESPN or something. It was a podcast, and I saw that, and I thought to myself, like, that's where that deep feeling comes from. But I just didn't identify it. Like it comes from watching football my whole life, and I wasn't able to put my finger on it. But it's that is it. Mike Tomlin does not get blown out and lose the next week at home. He doesn't do that. And I had a feeling that this was gonna. I wasn't sold on Tampa, and it was for all the reasons that you just talked about.
Yeah,
they look lethargic. They look old. They look emotional. They look frustrated. And I thought Pittsburgh could get Najee Harris going and win the football game. I was not surprised by the outcome, because I don't think Tampa is playing, and I don't know if they're playing in a top 10 caliber right now. Now, some people...
No, they're not. They're not.
Yes, I know. I was watching other power rankings, and there are people that put them at 8, and they're like, I may have them too high. They're going to get healthy. And I was like, I kind of disagree with it. I was like, I think they're too high at 8, because I'm not seeing enough from them to say that they're a team that you don't want to, reckon with. They're just not this year. And that loss to the Steelers, it just kind of proves it. It's also Mike Tomlin and coaching and keeping that team with an attitude. The Steelers are not going to be the Commanders and the Jaguars of the NFL. They're just not. And even if they are losing, they're still going to give you their best shot, similar like the Broncos. So doesn't surprise me at all.
And a lot of people like I feel like tend to forget that the Steelers have Tomlin there, and he's just this guy that oh my god, he's drinking out of my cup. What a scumbag. Um, but he's gonna keep them, like you said, like, hey, we're not gonna get our ass kicked, and we're not gonna be this dog shit team. We're still good, we still got good talent around us, and we're gonna use that talent to the best of our abilities, to the best of their abilities. And this is kind of what happens sometimes. And like you mentioned, he doesn't lose the the week after a blood, and he 51-0, I guess now. So, and also the Bucks, look, the Bucks have kept the same team, I think, now for probably the third year in a row. Maybe they've lost one or two guys here and there, but too long playoffs, it tires the team out. And this is a game where you are constantly hitting each other, A lot of sports, whenever you go into these long, 3, 4, 5 year playoff stints, you just get tired, man. Like, we've played football for a long time, or we've done a lot of hitting. And it showed. They just looked really tired. They are also, I don't think, a top 10 team right now. But who knows? Like you said, they might be getting healthy soon, or like whoever said they might be getting healthy soon. This might be a team later down the stretch that looks a little bit scary because Tom Brady, finalized his divorce or something and was like, "Hey, boys, let's go."
I got
You
to
know what
keep
I
the
mean?
vote.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's kind of this game right now. That's kind of what happened with the Steelers and Bucks.
Yeah, and I don't know if you keep up with PFF grades at all, but basically what happens is they take every, like, usually it's just separated by offense and defense, and then they'll put them together and see who had the highest grade in
Mhm.
week 6. So this kind of takes us over to our next game, which is the Rams and the Panthers without Matt Rule. Um,
Yep.
Now, I've been banging the table to get Allen Robinson more involved, and he had the highest grade on PFF at only 83.6. I guess it's hard to get really high up there.
Of course he
Um,
did.
but had the highest grade, and I think they're starting to get him involved. And Cam Akers, meanwhile, we as of now he's on the trade block.
Yeah.
So people, I mean, can't hold on to the ball. The Rams, I think it's almost. I don't want to say that he's the fall guy right now
Mhm.
because the Rams aren't, you know, they are
What
not
they were
showing
last
that they
year.
went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they're underperforming. So it almost felt like Cam Akers was the fall guy. Like, oh, he fumbled the ball and now you're going to trade him the next day. It's
Mhm.
just, I don't know how I feel about that. But I also think maybe they have so much running backs that it's almost too crowded and too many mouths to
Mhm.
feed. And they just
Mhm.
want to get back to, they went to the Super Bowl without Cam Akers. He had that playoff game, but before that, he was out all season. So maybe they're thinking we just need to get back to some of what we did last season. And
Mhm.
part of that involves not having, you know, 3 running backs that need the ball. So
Yeah.
this is a game that anybody in the NFL should have won. You got a coach that just got fired. They don't a quarterback that's out, and what was his name? CJ.
Robbie
CJ.
Anderson,
No, not Robbie Anderson, but their
DJ
quarterback.
Moore. Oh,
Uh,
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker.
Yeah.
PJ Walker, not a guy that you have to game plan around.
Mm.
Their wide receiver on their end, he ends up getting sent to the locker room during the game,
Yep.
and he is now an Arizona Cardinal. So
And like you
lot to break down there with Cam Akers and Anderson and
e exactly, and like you said, this is a game that I think even the Commanders could have come in and win. You know what I mean? Like the Commanders of the Bears, for example, could have come in and win. They are in complete like destruction mode. Um, they don't have Baker Mayfield starting because I believe he's hurt. Um, what's his name? The other quarterback that they had wasn't available or is hurt as well. So yeah, you got PJ Walker and Jacob Eason going out there going like, yeah, let's throw for 119 yards, no touchdowns and an interception, and let's just bank on McCaffrey and DJ Moore to do what they do. whenever you kind of bank on that, whenever you really just think about it, you're like, yeah, we should. The opposing team should win this every single time. I do want to give a quick note. Of course, Allen Robinson, busted out for 17 points the week after I drop him, so fuck me. But I will say the whole Robbie Anderson thing, it's just complete mayhem in Carolina. And I don't know whether as a Bears fan I should be able to say this, but I feel bad for them. I feel bad for them that their team is in complete disarray. They thought they had their guy in Matt Rule. They thought bringing in Baker would bring a different season in order to have CMC kind of like, oh, hey, look, Baker Mayfield's producing like he did those first couple of years in Cleveland. And we have Christian McCaffrey. Oh, yeah, and DJ Moore as a wide receiver. And maybe our defense isn't amazing, but with an offense, we could probably be up there as far as competition. Matt Rule gets fired. Robbie Anderson talks back to the interim coach, gets traded literally the next day to the Cardinals. DJ Moore, maybe kind of just like a sleeper right now, but he's got no quarterbacks that are throwing to him. So this is almost like an OBJ situation the last year.
I've had DJ Moore. I had him since draft day. He's just
Really?
Yeah, because I had him the last 2 years and he was like a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. So it's just one of those where he's too good to drop. So whatever, I'll sit him until something happens.
Yeah, until you get maybe Darnold back. You know what I mean? If Darnold comes back and Baker obviously the first 4 or 5 weeks isn't what was promised, then Darnold will probably be suitable for him to be in the top 10 wide receivers again. I mean, you got fucking Matt Ryan throwing to Pittman Jr. He's got 13 receptions, for over 100 yards. So I mean, I think Darnold is a suitable person to throw to DJ Moore, and then you go to the Rams, 24-10, a very convincing win. They're very meh 3-3. Maybe getting Christian McCaffrey in a trade soon, because obviously if Cam Akers is on the trade block, maybe he just needs a new scenery. Christian McCaffrey goes to the Rams. Now all of a sudden the Rams are back to where they're supposed to be with Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson leading the wide receiver core. And if CMC does end up going to them, oh man, they have an outstanding running back. So, two teams that could, maybe see a trade coming here soon. And, we talked about trades. Robbie Anderson went to the Cardinals. Cardinals went into Seattle, lost 19-9. How I don't want to. I don't know if
the
I want to say
Cardinals are trash.
I was gonna say I don't know if I want to say embarrassing or not, but that's embarrassing to go into Seattle. And I mean, as a Broncos fan, it's tough to play there, but that was rough.
No, the Seahawks didn't do anything to I don't want to say they didn't do anything to win the game, but it was not like a sexy, flashy win by any means. But my big concern is, I mean, you bring up the Bronco game against Seattle in Seattle. Russ still threw for 340 yards and had the team at the 2 fumbles on the 1 yard line. We were always going down there. This team scores how many points? 3?
9 points.
9 points or three times. And you have Kyler Murray, who you just paid to be the guy. And I know we talked about their head coach, Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury.
I know we talked about him being totally safe with that contract extension.
Yeah.
But this is actually not safe anymore because you can't part ways with Kyler Murray. You paid him too much money. So now that you can't do that, the coach becomes the person on the hot seat. Now, this is not a hot seat. This is a warm seat. And this is not like Kyle's opinion. This is the word in Arizona right now from the press conferences that I'm hearing and stuff like that. There is something wrong with Arizona. And this was the kind of game to kind of move over into fluke territory to trending territory where the Cardinals, is DeAndre Hopkins that big of a part of their success? Is DeAndre Hopkins the best receiver ever? Like
it's gotta be, right?
Yeah, because 9 points, you can't get into the end zone. Now, a lot of this, I'll say, is because they were going for it on 4th and they were in field goal range and they kept going for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because their kicker missed an extra point. So I think they got a touchdown and a field goal.
Yep. They got a touchdown and field goal and they missed the extra point. Yep.
So they were really shaky at the kicker position. So they went for it. I saw 2 times. It could have been more. I was working, but I could tell that they were not comfortable kicking field goals, and that probably played. But a lot of those 4th downs were 4th and 2. They were not 4th and 14. They were convertible 4th downs, and they just couldn't. Their offense it looked so stalled and just no urgency, and they just seem like they are not the same team that was explosive and fun to watch. And if you heard a Sunday Night Football game, week 5 last year was, going to be in Arizona, it would have been a game that would have been really fun to tune into. And right now, we don't feel that way about Arizona. So I think Kingsbury enters the warm seat. And if they can't make something change very soon, we're going to be searching for answers. And obviously, they already are searching for answers because they brought in Robbie Anderson. So do you think that that's a direct correlation to them just being kind of desperate right now to get things going?
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where Robbie Anderson, I think last year kind of broke out a little bit, but I mean, they didn't break out crazy, but broke out enough to where people were looking at him this year, and he just hasn't done anything in Carolina. So, I mean, it is, I don't want to say it's gonna make a huge difference for the Cardinals, but it gives Kyler another weapon. And this was a game where Kyler rushed for 100 yards, was their leading rusher. And again, like you mentioned, if they want to give him this amount of money for him to be the guy, can he be the leading rusher? Sure, because that's sometimes what a guy has to do. You look at Lamar Jackson, right? But he also has to be able to kind of move the offense. And you saw him in the preseason too, taking the plays from Cliff Kingsbury and like moving a team, calling the plays, moving a team downfield. Just to kind of give him that I guess like idea that, hey man, this isn't the easiest thing in the world to coach. And just because you're pissed off with the play calling doesn't mean that you're always right. And sure, he did make some nice play calls there in the preseason. But again, I don't know. This offense looks stalled. Similar to the Bucks, they look tired as well. They look like they're just not in it. I don't know. But I don't think Robbie Anderson is going to be a huge addition to this offense. Again, it gives them another weapon. But when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, I don't know. I forget exactly when that is, but it's going to be a huge jump to their, I guess, morale. Also, let's not forget, this is the in-season Hard Knocks team. So this is going to be real fun to watch. Real fun to watch.
They're in a similar – maybe the Hard Knocks people know something we don't, because they picked the Colts last year. And I think they had a similar record, and I could see the Cardinals maybe getting – I could see them maybe going on a roll like the Colts did. I mean, they're supposed to be good, so – it wouldn't surprise me. Sorry, I had to step away for a second. I got a new little puppy and he was choking on a treat. So very scary moment.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay. I opened his mouth and I couldn't see anything. So hopefully everything's all right with him.
Okay. But hopefully it's okay. Everybody's listening. The puppy's okay.
Yeah.
Let's move into probably the 2 best games of the Sunday slate. First one will go to kind of end the afternoon games. We got Buffalo visiting Kansas City. And Kansas City was a tough place to play because these 2 teams only put up 44 points. And this was a matchup that we thought everyone was like, this is revenge of the division series. I'm sorry, the division game last year in the playoffs. And Buffalo Bills came up with a win, 24-20. This wasn't a shootout, really. This was, I think, a very, very well-prepared game by both defensive coordinators. Leslie Frazier of Buffalo, and I forget who the defensive coordinator is for Kansas City. But
Andy Reid.
Is it Andy Reid? Andy Reid just does fucking everything. I scout and I draft too. Both these teams' defensive coordinators did really well as far as game planning, because 24-20. You don't expect that out of a game with Buffalo and Kansas. So these quarterbacks came up with interceptions late in the game to really sway that kind of that just like, are we going to win? Are they not going to win? Or I'm sorry, not Josh Allen didn't have an interception, but Patrick Mahomes had 2. And it was, it was a good game, but it wasn't the high scoring affair we really thought it was.
No, the Buffalo's defense is for real.
Yes.
And that's what happened. This was, for the most part, the best player in this game was Von Miller. And Von Miller
just disrupts, and it's so amazing what he does.
And it's hard to watch because it's like, why can't we? I mean, I got to be honest. We don't need him right now.
Yeah.
That's not our hole. But maybe we need the leadership. But he had so many QB pressures that they started doubling him, and when they doubled him, the interception, the second one Mahomes threw, was actually because of how disruptive Von Miller is, and that ended up being the turning point in the game. And I saw this in 2015 when we played the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, how Von Miller can single-handedly win a game. He can just, if it's hard to believe, but there's just some players in the NFL that single-handedly seem like Aaron Donald. They disrupt, they change the timing. The quarterback is now hesitant about things, and Buffalo brought Von Miller to Buffalo for one reason, and that was to stop Patrick Mahomes, because they knew this team is built to beat the Chiefs. I mean, this team is built to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Sorry. And they proved that all their additions and all their work and everything is catering towards being able to, in a matchup sense, take on the Chiefs. And they've done it now in the regular season in Arrowhead, and I'm sure we'll see him do it again later down the road. But Buffalo, if you take away that loss they had to the Dolphins, which it could have easily been a Buffalo win. They controlled the time of possession. They ran like 79 plays from scrimmage, and the ball just kind of rolled Miami's way. Not to take credit away, but Buffalo could realistically be 6-0 right now, and it would not be very shocking. So
no, wouldn't. It really wouldn't be. And like you said, this team was built to beat the Chiefs, and in doing that, they built a team that can beat anyone. And the fact that they went into Arrowhead, beat the Chiefs. Sure, it was a close game, and there was they needed an interception to do so, because there was still a lot of time for Mahomes to do it, and it was an interception that really kind of did it, right? Put the last nail in the coffin for them. Josh Allen is incredible. Those
Allen
passes
is ice in his veins, man.
He is, man. We talk about Joe Cool, Joe Burr. Josh Allen is like, there's no cool name to give Josh Allen, and he doesn't look like a cool, sexy guy, but man, this fucking guy does it. This guy just
hot when he's on the field.
He is. He's hot at all the time, especially naked. No. He's hot. He's hot all the time. And you look at the weapons that you put around him. Stephon Diggs. You bring him from Minnesota. Gabriel Davis, who really had his coming out party last season, right? Dawson Knox caught a touchdown, and he's starting to become that guy. He lost his brother, I think, younger or older brother earlier in the offseason, I believe. So just great kind of comeback for Dawson Knox. The rushing isn't there with Devin Singletary, although Devin Singletary did bust out a few nice runs. This offense is just built to win, and that's exactly what they're doing. There's really nothing about it that nothing except that they are built to win.
The incorporation of Josh Allen on designed runs and his ability to escape the pocket, even on that last game-winning drive, he rolled out and he hurdled a defender.
Yeah,
so
that was insane.
Yeah, he's not just a good quarterback. He's everything that you would want out of a quarterback. And I think the only comparison people try to make is Patrick Mahomes. and Mahomes can't do what Josh Allen does as far as his physicality and,
Mhm.
the way I think he stiff armed somebody against the Rams. That was awesome to watch, but he's just a really physical
I
runner.
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
And I thought Buffalo was the best team in the NFL last year, and they didn't get a chance to play in the Super Bowl. But I'm going to start calling Von Miller missing piece because it seems like exactly what he did for the Rams last year at
Mhm.
that time, at that week 8 mark. It's like he's doing it for Buffalo. And
Yes.
Von Miller's reason for joining Buffalo, he said he wants to be the first player in NFL history to win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams. I think it's going to happen for him.
I think so too. There's really, it's hard to argue against this team. It just really is. But someone who is kind of putting up a good fight in that argument is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
And Sunday Night Football was pretty electric, I would say. I mean, it was kind of like towards the end, right, where Dallas kind of put up a good fight.
Yeah. You had
But
Meek Mill standing on the sideline
yeah,
rapping. You had the first lady going, "Fly Eagles, fly." I mean,
yeah,
it was like,
you
wow,
can't
this is like,
lose.
yeah,
You
this was a
can't lose
very
with that.
serious environment. And
Oh,
you just kind of
oh
knew.
yeah.
You're like, dude, they're not going to lose this game. And I'll let you say something because I do have something interesting I want to say about the Eagles.
Okay, I just want to say, like, the Eagles defense to intercept Cooper Rush 3 times. Cooper Rush was coming into this game on a hot streak. And this is a back quarterback who was looking like a starter in these games with Dallas. And Dallas isn't just a place you can just become a backup quarterback. Like, backup quarterbacks in Dallas have like come up and like thrived, and Cooper Rush is no exception. But this defense for the Eagles is ridiculous. 3 interceptions of Cooper Rush. The Cowboys again were able to put up some sort of a fight, but man, the Eagles were blowing them out. Ezekiel Elliott had a nice touchdown, and you had a passing touchdown to Goddard, I believe, from Cooper Rush. I believe. Let me see, Ferguson. Sorry,
Ferguson, not Goodert.
Yeah, and I got it. But Philly, Jalen Hurts is also the truth. And like you said, when you have Meek Mill there and you're throwing and
Oh my
Jalen Hurts
God,
is throwing
dude.
2 touchdowns, and Miles Sanders is Miles Sanders, and this defense is killing them. Yeah, it's kind of tough to beat Philly in Philly.
Dude, if you have Meek Mill there, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but
But Meek Mill, oh my God.
I'm like, if you have Meek Mill there and I had to go into the game, I might break one off. I'm just going to be honest. Like, you put nightmares,
Right?
what is it? Nightmares on the bottom or
Oh,
something?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's just crazy what they do there.
So this is the Eagles they're the real deal. They're winning the grudge up front. The offensive line, the defensive line, may be the best two in the NFL.
Yeah.
So they're getting all the leverage. They're able to run the ball, and the Eagles are outscoring their opponents in the second quarter at a point differential that is the biggest in history of the NFL. They
Jesus.
are running the score up in the second quarter, and that's, man, wouldn't you rather have a team do that than have, running it up in the fourth or the third? They're going into halftime with leads. They've led every single game because of their second quarter. And that is so much better, getting ahead, getting up early in the game and not having to play from behind. It gives you so much more leverage with play calling. Jalen Hurts, he can tuck it and run. He's electric. This is what I've learned about Jalen Hurts, and I don't want anyone to take this lightly. Jalen Hurts is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And what winners do, they win. And it doesn't always look the same. And it's not always with the legs or with the feet. It doesn't matter how he's got to do it. He has that bone in him to just win a game no matter who the opponent is. And I think what I like about him the most is that announcers asked him, I don't know if you heard this, they said about, how do you feel about being 5-0? And he's like, I hate it. He's like, I hate when people talk about us being 5-0 because No one talked about us last year when we were 2-3, so I
Yeah.
don't want to hear them talking now just because we're 5-0. And then after the game, they asked him, "You said you didn't like 5-0. Well, how does 6-0 sound?" And he just kind of laughed it off. And he's like, "No, it sounds good, but we got a lot of work to do." This is a guy that goes in every single week,
Yeah.
never underestimating his opponent. He's living 1 week to 1 week to 1 week. And this Eagles team is something to get behind. And if you're one of those bandwagon jumpers, this is a good bandwagon jump right here.
Yeah.
It's still early. You could still maybe get away with it. The diehards will know, but not everybody will. And this team has NFC Championship or Super Bowl written all over them. And this is what real quick, this is what I wanted to share. Okay,
Yeah.
this is the Eagles schedule: Steelers, Texans, Commanders, Colts,
Oh my God.
Packers, Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Giants. So I just want to say there are some matchups in there that you're like, that's going to be a tough game. And I agree, but there's not one team on that list that I think, oh, that's the better team. That's the better opponent.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to go 17-0. There's probably going to be a bad game or something, but 15-2 seems very, very likely at this point.
I hope one of those losses is against the Bears, because God, that'd be great.
And if they're 15-2, they're going to get a first round bye. And if you thought Meek Mill was hype on Sunday Night Football,
just
imagine.
Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. This team is crazy. To be in Philly right now would be awesome. Although I wouldn't want to be in Philly either, regardless. But this team is electric. Jalen Hurts. Last year, I think at there was a point when they were losing, right? And like you said, they weren't talking about us when we were 2-3. But there was a point, I think last year, where Jalen Hurts was talking about, like, this team is good. Like people are talking shit about us or something like that. And like, I know what this team is. We just have to come in and work. I'm coming in. I'm the first one to come in, last one to leave. That shit is paying off now for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
You see that. People out there, if you work as hard as Jalen Hurts did last year, and they just made a wild card and got beat pretty badly in that, look at them now, 6-0, and going into what looks to be, per Kyle, a 15-2 season.
Yeah.
In a first round bye, and pretty much expectations to go into the Super Bowl. Like, that's the shit you got to look at. You don't look at this year, them starting 6-0. You look at last year when Jalen Hurts was like, hey, I'm the first one in, last one out for an entire season, an entire off season, preseason, into this season. And this is what happens.
Yeah,
this is the result you get.
Exactly. It's being a professional. That is what being a professional is all about. And the last thing I'll say is Meek Mill and Jalen Hurts. Meek Mill and Jalen Hurts have one thing in common. Meek Mill said, "Hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. When I bought that Aston Martin, y'all thought it was rented." Jalen Hurts says, "Hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. When I started 6-0, y'all thought I was finished."
Kyle Rapp, new segment. Kyle Raps.
I just think that the way the Eagles are playing, though, fits the identity of the city, doesn't it? Doesn't it just feel very Philly? It feels like that 2005 team a little bit. So
I mean,
fun to watch.
And they haven't started 6-0 since that 2000 and I think it was 2004 when Donovan McNabb was the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Back there, that's great. Almost 20 years.
It's crazy. This is a team that won the Super Bowl from this gap of time.
Yeah, isn't it crazy? Like those two best starts, and that wasn't even their Super Bowl year. That's insane. All right, Kyle, I'm gonna let you take it away in this. I wasn't able to watch a lot of it, but it was another low-scoring game on Monday Night Football. I don't want to say low-scoring. It was definitely higher scoring than the Thursday Night Football game the Broncos were in. But the Broncos were in LA against the Chargers. I'm not gonna lie, this was a much closer game than I expected. I thought the Chargers were really, really going to fucking run up the score, and give credit to the Denver defense, though. Like you said, they have made teams look pretty silly by, I think this is the most they've scored on the Broncos defense, if I'm not mistaken. So
they scored,
take it away. But that defense for Denver, it's looking good. The offense just needs to pick it up.
Yeah. So Broncos, they defer. They're able to get the ball back, and Russell Wilson actually completed his first 11 passes. So he went 11 for 11, throwing to 6 different receivers, and they actually looked really good, and they got up to a 10-0 lead. So it was 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. So it was really a tale of multiple quarters. As far as defensively, Patrick Surtain was on Mike Williams all day. Mike Williams, I think he had one catch. I'm not sure. I think he had one catch because he had some points on fantasy. But Patrick Surtain is, and I showed you on PFF, quarterbacks throwing his direction have the lowest in the QBR in the NFL. He is locked down. Baron Browning, the guy that you kept talking about against that Colts game.
Yeah,
he is a real problem.
he
And
is.
he learned from Von Miller, so he should be. And Bradley Chubb, that defense is so good, man. This is with a team with a quarterback, Justin Herbert, who averages 298 passing yards per game. Only one quarterback that has more, and it's Patrick Mahomes in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a guy that just throws the ball around, and we thought if we were going to win this game, we're going to have to score points. And the Denver Broncos defense is just the truth. And there's no other way to say it. Like they're able to keep the game. I mean, so many 3-and-outs for Herbert, and the pressure was there, and then they run the ball and it's not going anywhere. Then they try pitching it and that gets stuffed. And then the longest pass play for the Chargers was like 22 yards, and like 15 of those yards were yak yards. So he didn't complete one pass downfield the whole game. It's just truly feels like a waste of a defensive performance. And you guys probably are catching the trend that I said, all we got to do is score more than 16 fucking points. That's all we got to do. We need to score more than 16. If we would have scored more than 16, there would have been no overtime. Just, gosh, man, I just don't know how it's so hard to get 16 points against a defense that is not even good. And how do you go from why Melvin Gordon didn't play in the game? Now, I understand he had his fumbling issues, but he didn't have any last week, and this is a revenge game for him against the Chargers. He's doing the ball. Latavius Murray, he's a little highlight. He looked really good, physical, just running the football, getting 5-yard gains. Nobody had a good running game per se. Eckler had a touchdown that saved his day, but fantasy-wise. But this is a game that Denver should have won, man, and they end up kicking the field goal, and it was a field goal, and then we field goal, and it was
just a field goal off.
It was like, yeah, field goals were happening, and I don't want you to think that teams were like moving down because of the field goals. It was just there was just a couple, so it did go into overtime at 16-16. So there's 3 field goals and 1 touchdown per team. Then it goes into overtime. Broncos go out for the coin toss, and Brendan McManus says heads. It is heads, and the Broncos get the ball. What did they do? 3-and-out. And they punt the ball. So here comes the defense, and I'm like, dude, I don't like this because now any score wins the game, a field goal, whatever it is, and their kicker hurt his leg. He, on his first field goal, he hurt himself.
So they had a new guy out there.
No.
Oh, no. It's still Hutchinson or whatever?
No, it was Hopkins.
Okay.
Hopson or something.
Okay.
Old Florida State kicker. But he's
Hopkins,
out there, and every time he kicks a field goal, he like falls to the ground because he's in pain. But he just kept kicking the ball. And I was like, okay, he's made every field goal attempt, so I'm not that confident that he can't kick a field goal. He's obviously hurt, but he can kick through it. So I'm a little, I guess scared is the word. So the Broncos, what do? Well, just what their defense has done all season, 3-and-out, and give Russell Wilson a chance to get the ball back. Russell Wilson gets back on the field. Pretty decent field position. They're on I think they're between the 25 and the 35. A 3-and-out again. They run the ball on first down. They run the ball on second down, and then on third down.
Oh my God!
Yeah, on third down, he just throws it up to Jerry Jeudy, and it's not even close. And then they punt it again. So by this time, they punt the ball back to the Chargers with 7 minutes left in overtime. And I'm like, look, honestly, the Chargers can just go ahead and win this game because the defense is not responsible for what happens at this point. You gave Russell Wilson the ball twice in his hands with a chance to win the game. And at this point, they had 4 3-and-outs like in a row, or 1 first down in their last 5 possessions. It's just completely unacceptable. It's not a bad offense. It's disgusting. It is unbelievably bad that you can't get 1 first down against this Chargers defense.
Feel that.
So right when I write a pass for the defense to, I can't expect you to just keep the stamina up with this offense. They force a 3-and-out, and the defense is fired up, and they're banging their chest. They run it with Eckler, gets stuffed. Then they try a pitch, and Alex Singleton, everybody meets him there. It's actually, they lost one on the run, then they lost one on the pitch. So now it's 3rd and 12, and the defense just brings in a rush, and they got to throw it away. And it's like, dude, we're getting the ball back. Russell Wilson seems like he's like, all right, you can't just keep him out of the end zone.
Yeah.
Eventually, someone's going to score between these two guys, and they punt the ball. And what happens is Washington's back there to return the punt, and a Charger pushes a Bronco blocker into Washington. And I guess that's totally legal. I don't think it should be, and it's not just because what happened tonight. I think that's a really stupid rule, because what's the difference between interference if you're using another player to interfere?
Yeah, exactly.
He's just sitting there trying to call a fair catch, and then Chargers 3-and-out, but now they're in field goal range and they win the game. I felt nauseous after this game because this is the games that you have to win. Your defense says Herbert, he's going to score 16 points. We're going to keep him to like 7 points in the first half or whatever it was. No, 10 points.
Yeah.
And in the first half, you have got to find a way to win when you're playing a top 5 offense in the NFL and you keep them under 20 points. Actually, you kept them under 17 in regulation. How do you not score more than 17 points? And this is the curse. I've been saying it. We need to score more than 16 points because we hold our opponents to 16 points. So you just need one more. I don't know what they don't understand about only needing, like, let's just pretend we only need 20 points. Can we just game plan around that and go out there and try to score 20 points? So this game had me furious. It was fun to watch because we won the whole game. The only time we lost the lead was the game-winning field goal. This was a game that we started hot and never lost the lead.
That sucks.
Montreal Washington gets pushed, and I'm not going to make excuses because it shouldn't have come down to your defense forcing 3 3-and-outs in overtime for Russell Wilson to be able to put together a drive. You can't ask them to just keep doing that over and over and over against a guy like Herbert. So if I had to sum up how I feel right now, it's I feel good about what I saw in the first quarter, but it doesn't mean shit to me at this point because they showed that it was a fluke. They showed that they can't continue to do that. And the defense, I love them. I love their heart. They are really the heart and soul of this Denver team. They have no quit in them. They don't get mad at Russell Wilson when they have to go back out in the field. They just go out there and do another 3-and-out, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they force turnovers. Barrett Browning had an interception. I mean, this defense was impeccable for the opponent they played. And next week we have the Jets, and I don't know what else to say.
And I feel your fucking pain, dude. If there's anyone who knows great defense and who goes out there and does their job and just gets failed by their offense, it's me as a Bears fan, because that's been me the past 20 plus years I've been a fan. It sucks because you were able to get Russell Wilson and you thought, here we go. This is a guy who's going to come in. Here's a guy that's going to come in and really solve the offensive issue. Yeah, slide in. Let me just slide right in. That was going to solve the issues. And he's just come in. And I don't know if I really don't know. I mean, last week in Thursday Night Football, I could really just like we said, we really blamed Russ for like the throws and stuff. But man, this this Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson marriage is not working right now. It's these first 6 games are just not working. They've really got to like iron something out. I don't know when their bye is, but when their bye happens, they've really got to get something like worked out because it is rough to watch this offense. And like you said, the fact that they didn't have Melvin Gordon in after a game where he didn't have any last week to come into LA and just to be like, hey, I'm back. It's kind of fucked up, not gonna lie, but it's kind of fucked up. I mean, I don't know what the game plan was either, but
Melvin,
they
kept showing Melvin standing, like holding his helmet, like on the sideline, like very invested in the game. When the offense came off the field, he's high-fiving everybody, patting people on the ass. And it's so much so that the announcer had to go over and ask if he was dealing with an injury, and they said that he wasn't. But they don't know the whole story. He did have a hip and like a hip and a thigh that he was not participating in practice all week. So I think they might have just been like, let's keep him like without any contact and he'll be more healthy next week. That's the only thing I can see. But if you got a guy hungry for the football kind of dancing around on the sideline and you're not able to get your offense rolling, hey, maybe try to start something new. If he fumbles the ball, I mean, he fumbles the ball. We're not doing anything now anyway. So
yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's really not like the offense is rolling and you're like, let's just keep what we have going here.
That's the situation where you don't bring him in. But in this situation, fuck it. Why not? Let's see what happens. And again, like who knows what might have happened if he came in? Hey, he might have fumbled and that would have really cost you the game. Who knows what would have happened, right? Like this would have been that one time that Melvin Gordon fumbles.
Yeah, I'll just say though that that first quarter, Russell Wilson looked like Russell Wilson. He was dodging sacks and rolling out and extending plays, and you're like, and throwing the. He extended one play and threw a touchdown pass. I mean, it was so fun, and I'm just like they got the Jets, and then they go to London and play the Jaguars, and then they get their bye week. So if they can get to the bye at 4-4, I'm not ready to quit on this team. But they're a couple losses away. I'll be honest.
And the shitty thing is that they're not consistent with it. That's really, again, I know what that feels like. I know exactly what that feels like. So it sucks.
Yeah.
Just keep they
just keep you with a little bit of hope.
Yeah. They're like, oh, hey, here's a win. Here's a nice little win. Here's a win by 3 points. Oh, hey, look, 2 scores. Look at that. Wow. So that was week 6. We don't have our record yet, but I think as a podcast I feel like we did 50%. But again, we had a lot of games that we disagreed on, so we'll double check on the second episode this week when we give it to you guys on Thursday. But now that was week 6. We'll talk week 7 later this week. Let's talk a little fantasy. And Kyle, I want to start off with you. Looks like you got your first win of the week, huh?
Yeah, first dub. And I don't know how. This is a good team. This is how I feel about the Broncos. I'm like we have solid players on this lineup. I tried to get Geno Smith, and I told you someone else took him. So I had to ride with Russell Wilson, who had 11 points at the end of the first quarter and gave me 13 by the end of the game. So that should tell you how the rest of the game went. Alvin Kamara seems to be back in form, just 1 yard away from 100-yard rushing game, 18.4. Ramondre Stevenson, 25. Big game like I thought he had. Mike Evans didn't have such a solid week this week. I'm sure everybody has Mike Evans, or if they're in the league, somebody has him. But he's not. He used to be a lot more hit and miss, and I don't think he's like that as much this year. But he was a miss this year. CeeDee Lamb, nothing to write home about, just 12 points. But Zach Ertz, let me see. He's still the 4th ranked tight end in the NFL, but it's the targets. The targets are they're just looking at him. So hopefully the addition of Robbie Anderson doesn't take some of that target share away. And then Kenneth Walker III. If you were able to snag him, that's good. Yeah. I think that this is going to be a long-term thing with Seattle. He's really good. He had 97 yards. He had a touchdown. He had a couple catches. He did exactly what you would want a flex to do. Decided to bench Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who had 3 points. Bench DJ Moore, who had 3 points. Benched Ezekiel Elliott, had 15. Probably my only bad move was benching Ezekiel Elliott, but it wasn't because I literally can't play another running back. And I
Yeah.
wasn't, I just, it's a good
And
problem
he,
to have, but I wish I had a wide receiver. But Devontae Adams was on a bye week. So,
yeah. And Ezekiel only got you 16 points, but both running more points than that. So
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
sure, something that you were like fuck, but also it worked out in your favor.
Yeah. I don't even know why I said that. Once I said it, I realized that
let's go to my week. I won this week. So Kyle got his first win. I was lucky enough to get my let me double check my fourth win. Won
Nice.
133 to 108. And biggest contributors, Stephon Diggs, Pittman Jr., and Josh Allen. Obviously, Diggs, he had 10 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Who was throwing him the ball? My quarterback, Josh Allen, 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. He rushed for a few yards as well. And then Michael Pittman Jr., someone that I had traded for either last week or the week prior. Didn't really think much of it. I mean, you look at Pittman Jr. and you're like, all right, that's number 1 wide receiver. But I was like, I think he'll do well enough to be my number 2, just because I did trade away Amon-Ra St. Brown for a fucking a tight end, by the way, Freiermuth. But I'll get into that in a bit. And yeah, I mean, 30 points. They're almost 31 points he got me this week. So very happy about that. My running backs, Najee Harris finally scored a touchdown, finally got me more than 6 points. Only got me about 13, so still not too happy with his performance, as if he was my first pick. So that sucks.
Yeah, that's a terrible first pick.
Yeah,
right now. It made sense then.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking, what is it? Hindsight's 2020.
Yep.
Nick Chubb had a terrible game. 8 points, only 56 yards on the ground. So you guys need to feed Chubb. Come on.
Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. I mean, that's like, you're riding that so hard.
100%. Like when they have their bye week, I'm fucked. But we'll see. We'll get there when we get there.
Breaking news. Russell Wilson injures hamstring and lost to Chargers.
Oh no. Well, oh no, or oh no, kind of like oh no.
It's always going to be an oh no when Bright Rippon is your backup, but scheduled for an MRI Monday night.
All right, there's breaking news. Russell Wilson getting an MRI later tonight.
Sorry to be a buzzkill, but
no, that's cool. I won't go on. No, I'm just kidding. And then I was talking about my tight end earlier. I got Freiermuth on a trade. He was out, so I had to pick up Hayden Hurst, who only got me 5.1 points. Whatever.
How many did Freiermuth get you?
Freiermuth got me 0 because he was out.
Yeah, exactly. You should be happy.
I mean, sure, but I was like, Freiermuth for the Steelers has been pretty rock solid and one of their main like guys. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be dope, and it wasn't. And then Eno Benjamin, the Arizona running back, I thought was gonna have I almost kind of had him like a Kyle Walker, or what's his name? Walker the third.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I thought he was gonna be a similar pickup, at least with similar points. I mean, got me 9.5, so not the worst. I think better than all my other flexes, really. Yeah, I mean, Darnell Mooney I could have put in, but I mean, would you put in Darnell Mooney? Right? Let's be real.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So Buffalo defense 6 points, Evan McPherson 8 points. That was kind of my win. You know, I beat Tanner by about 20 points. So I'm kind of happy about that. 4-2. I should be number 1 in my division. And Kyle got his first win. So number 1 for me and number 1 for Kyle. Number 1 win for Kyle.
Yeah. And it's funny to note this. We're talking about the Jets offense. Zach Wilson had 4.5 fantasy points this week.
Jesus Christ.
So that defense is what is keeping the Jets winning football games. So,
and it's good. And
so they got a good defense, and we're going to see them on Sunday with a terrible offense. So that'll be a fun one.
I had one more fun note. This was the first time Lamar Jackson was beaten by an NFC team. 12-0 before that. He's now
Really?
12-1. Yes. Isn't
That
that
shows you how bad
ridiculous?
the NFC East is.
It really, or how good Lamar Jackson is. But either way, I think it's kind of
Yeah.
on both ends.
Oh, it's
You can't.
incredible.
Both things are true, really. All right, that was today's episode. We went over the recap of Week 6, sandwiched between two pretty not so good primetime games. And again, if you love watching me and Kyle just be absolutely miserable, then you enjoyed this week a lot. But yeah, other than that, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook at Star6 Media. We're going to be going live soon. We've gone live with Big League Chicago. We've also gone live with Only Football as far as like streaming some games. It's just it's great what we've done here on StreamYard as well. Well, you see our setup nice and fancy. Like Kyle loves it. Kyle's got a green screen background of a Broncos going straight into the ground because that's what the team's doing. So that's what's happening with them. But yeah, we're going to be bringing you some live streams of usually Monday episodes. That's what we're going to do from here on out. Starting next week, we're going to bring you live stream. That way we can take your questions on the recaps and just anything else you guys might have. But follow us at Star6 Media, pretty much all the big social media platforms. And then up at the top, you could follow me on Twitter at And Now Rick. Kyle, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Football Only Podcasts, FTBLONLY podcast, and see my retweets, see the things that I like, maybe some stuff we're going to be talking about. It's all about football, so hence the name.
Only football.
Only football, baby.
Only football.
So go ahead and give me a follow, and I'll follow you back.
Yep. Kyle will follow you back. 2 days later, we'll unfollow you. So don't. He's an asshole.
No, I only unfollow people that use the sad face emoji on Russell Wilson and try to and then they try to act like it's real. It's like, how desperate are you for clicks?
Oh my God. Yeah. Kyle will unfollow you. He'll block you if you've got some negative shit.
Find out where you live.
He will find out where you fucking live.
And I'll send you a jersey, a Russell Wilson jersey.
Yeah. He'll be really nice about it. He'll be creepy at first, but he'll be nice about it at the end.
I won't be nice at the end.
All right, man. You got anything else?
Nope. I'll see you on Thursday for the projections.
Okay. I will see you then for whatever that was.
We can't pronounce on this pod.
All right, man. See ya.